Alright guys, so we are here at TG, the gym in PB. We are going to hit glutes today. So as I mentioned before, I do have to change up my training for glutes and lower body, specifically because the judges said my quads and my hamstrings are very dominant and overdeveloped compared to the rest of my physique. So I'm going to take you guys through my glute day, show you the isolations that I'm doing for my glutes and what I'm trying to avoid in the movements and what I'm trying to attain as far as activation in the movement. So come along on this glute day. With hip thrust, this is only a hip thrust variation I'm going to do today because I am going to focus more on isolation because hip thrusts are still going to hit my hamstring. So what I'm doing is I'm fixing my foot placement. Wider stance, I get a little bit more hamstring activation. Narrow stance, I get a little bit more glute. So I'm going to do both, but this really is the only compound that I'm going to be doing today. So I just did 4 straight sets here. So I'm not going up or doing rest pauses. I'm just doing straight sets to get a good pump and activation. I don't want to go to a point where I'm loading the weight too much and I'm just trying to thrust it up and I'm using too much quad or too much hamstring in the movement. So I do have to be really careful on compound movement so that I know that I'm just working the glutes as much as possible. So here we're gonna do another variation of a thrust, but I'm going to be kneeling. So I'm gonna go on the Smith machine, I'll be kneeling down and squeeze entirely with my glutes. It will take a little bit of hamstring and quad out of this movement. The way you wanna set up under the bar is have your knees directly under your center of gravity, under the bar. When you go down, keep your feet flat, so keep your toes on the ground. And when you thrust up, literally think you're trying to squeeze a walnut in between your butt. So that way you're not using your body to rock up with momentum, you're really using your glutes to squeeze all the way up into the rep. So here we're doing my famous froggies. So it is kind of an interesting setup, but I really like the activation on my glutes. But while you're doing it, you do have to be aware of where your hips are in comparison to the bar. If you're too far forward, you're gonna use a lot more hamstring. If you're a lot more under the bar, which you need more flexibility, you're gonna get more glute activation. So I'll show you guys the difference. So I'm gonna be closer under the bar. I'm gonna try and get my hips and glutes as close to being under the bar as possible. So I'm using just glutes to activate and finish out the rep.
More frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo taking release.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to golo.com now and see how your life begins at golo.com. That's GOLO.com. Again,
If you see in the movement, I am activating every portion of my glute. The upper shelf, the distal portion, the adductors, abductors. So I really like this movement. Like I said, you have to be a little bit flexible and limber to get under the bar. But if you stretch and get under the bar and you can get that activation, it's a really, really good glute movement to do. The key with this exercise is just don't look at anyone while you're doing it. Same with when you're doing abductions, just don't look at anyone. Very awkward. Okay. So today I'm just doing straight sets through all the exercises, just taking you guys through the range of motion and the activation that I'm trying to attain. But I've mentioned before, it is really difficult right now how we're trying to come into the next show we had to mainstream my legs without losing fullness in my glutes. So making sure I don't develop any more quad and hamstring and actually kind of lose tissue in my quads and hamstrings while keeping my glutes full. So training, cardio regimen, it's all very specific right now. If you guys want to see what baby woo looks like, follow me. So this was, I think like 2017, 2018 baby woo. I've had so many people be like, I thought that was you, but it wasn't. I was like, no, that's me before I adulted. And there's a middle-aged woo here. This one looks more like me. And so we need to get a third one, a more up-to-date one. That one is 2019 to 2020, so I'm due for a new photo here. So here doing kickback isolations, very simple movement, but keeping it all in the glute. So if you look at my reps, I stay upright as much as possible so I get as much of the shelf squeeze. So my first 10 reps, I go back, straight back. Then my second 10 reps, I go at a diagonal. So it's gonna hit different heads of your glute. I feel like two sorts of ways with this type of training. For the longest time, I didn't want to do the little kickbacks or the isolations because I don't want to do like foo-foo shit in the gym. But when it comes to bodybuilding, it's very intricate and specific if you're trying to sculpt certain things. So I spent majority of my career bodybuilding, lifting really heavy, going for PRs, just trying to slam the weights because I was really ego lifting like in the past. But now I'm very much more specific with how I'm going to keep my glutes full, mainstream my legs, and until I'm done competing, I do need to make sure I listen to the judges, because what's the point of competing, getting feedback from judges and not listening to them? So I'm really trying to take back the feedback and implement it into my next package. But with this approach to training, I can probably train glutes about 3 times a week in my split. So I'm doing it more frequently with higher volume because the recovery time doesn't need to be as long because I'm not thrashing my glutes as much as possible. So that's basically the approach to the frequency of my glute days. I'm gonna try and get 2 more exercises in as long as the machines are open. So let's go. So this is a fun little one. This is like a reverse hyperextension. My twinnie Ashlyn and I had done this in her apartment gym, and ever since then I always implement it into my glute days because it takes every other muscle out of the movement except for your glutes. So what you do is you go to a leg extension. As long as it doesn't have like a middle portion for the lever, as long as it doesn't have this, and it's a open space like this, then you can normally do it easily. So what you want to do is you want to push the seat back as far as possible. You want to put your hips on the edge of the bench. So as you see here, I'm activating my glutes and I'm not activating any hamstrings or any quads. It's all glute activation here. That's the bio pump that you need to use. No stins, nootropic, best pump and focus in your workout. Use code WOO. My whole life. So we're doing abductions. So I'm gonna do the 3 planes of motion. We're forward, upright, and all the way back. That way you're hitting every portion of the glute. Good thing about this is it's just hitting your abductors and no quads, no hamstrings. This is our last movement, so this is movement number 6. So I like to keep a range between 4 to 5, but since I'm doing more volume and a little bit lighter load, I'm doing 6 movements in total. But if you look at it, it's a whole lot of isolation. That's basically all I'm doing in my glute workout. So you have to think every rep in every movement, it's a full squeeze, because that's the most that you're gonna get out of your glute day. So if any movement that you're doing, you're just doing half reps, half ass, you're not gonna get the most out of that glute isolation workout. As you can see, I'm still making it hard. Even though it's just isolation movements, I'm still taxing it as much as I can with the weight and with the squeeze. That's essentially my glute day. So this is basically what my glute day is gonna look like 3 times out of my split. I'm not doing any heavy compounds. I'm not doing any isolations for my hamstrings or my quads. I'm not doing any lunges. It is pretty streamlined, it is basic, but I do know a lot of bikini competitors do have this issue where they have more development and more tissue in their legs than their glutes. So this is something, whether you want to take the whole glute day in itself entirely or take bits and pieces and implement it into your workout, these are really good glute isolations to implement if you're trying to keep your glutes full and not touch too much on your quads and hamstrings. So that is the Woody glute day for you guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what more you guys want to see on my channel.